welcome to the August webinar. Today's webinar is entitled Making Your Budget Come Alive. My name is Nathan Ockery, and I'm a credit counselor here at Family Life Credit Services, and I just appreciate each one of you being able to take a few minutes out of your day today to just talk about budgeting a little bit. So we're going to dive right in here in a second. So I'm just going to start off with a word of prayer, and then we'll jump right in. So Lord, thank you for another day, Lord, another day that we can just serve you, and just thank you for the opportunity and the technology and everything that we have to be able to just come together here across the country and just talk a little bit about making our budgets work and making them a real living budget. And I pray that that each person here would have something they can take away and apply to their own situation, and just be able to enhance their budgeting skills and become better stewards of their money, Lord. I pray that you would just bless this time we have together, Lord. In your name we pray. Amen. Well, let's get started here. First thing, I was looking around. I found a couple cool verses in Proverbs. Proverbs is always good. There's so much just practical wisdom in the book of Proverbs. And Proverbs 21:20 says, "In the house of the wise there are stores of choice food and oil, but a foolish man devours all he has." And so that's just such a key thing when it comes to our finances. A foolish man devours all he has. That makes me think of just the paycheck to paycheck cycle that so many of us are in on a monthly basis, and just every month going down to the last dime. That's certainly not the way anybody wants to manage their money, and sometimes it's unavoidable. So we just want to today we just want to try to get you to the point where you're not coming down to that last $3 in your checking account. You're not always worried about overdraft fees, and a good structured working living budget is the key to getting to that point, so we can store up the choice food and oil, as it says in Proverbs. So first question, where to start? So the first thing you want to do when you're talking about your budget is to establish your financial goals. There has to be a purpose to your budget. You have to have an end result in mind. Otherwise, it becomes pretty unmotivating to follow a budget if you're not striving to achieve something with your finances. So you want to establish your financial goals, and along with that, determine what your attitude is going to be towards your finances. A couple different examples. Some of you may be just in survival mode, where you just want to get out of the paycheck to paycheck cycle, and you just want to be able to survive. You don't need anything fancy. You don't need all the things that the world has to offer. You just need to survive and be able to move in a positive direction with your finances. And some of you might be in attack mode. Maybe you've had sufficient income to pay all your basic expenses, but you've just gotten yourself into some debt, and you want to establish a good working budget so that you can attack that debt and you can pay it off quickly and efficiently, and get out of that lifestyle of always having debt, being in debt to someone or a bank or anything. So you determine what your attitude is going to be, and then come up with your short-term goals. Maybe it could be small purchases. Maybe you need to be able to buy a new vehicle in 2 years, or maybe you have kids going off to college and you want to be able to help them with college expenses, or maybe you have weddings coming up that you need to save for, those kind of things. But determine what your short-term goals are. Be specific. Have exact dollar amounts. Have the exact time frame that you need that amount, and be able to come up with those numbers. Maybe your short-term goal is even just to, again, get out of that cycle of having nothing left at the end of the month. and be able to start saving. And maybe it's the debt repayment. Maybe you have some credit card debt or payday loans or old medical bills, things that can be paid off in a matter of months and years or a few years. So again, determine how much you owe and set a specific time that you want to be able to pay off that debt by. And then determine your long-term goals as well. This could be large purchases. Maybe this is to buy a house someday or buy a rental property or maybe start a business, those kinds of things. And then other long-term goals could include putting money away for retirement or for, again, kids' college, that kind of thing. Or it could be maybe you have a home, but you want to be able to pay it off before your kids graduate, or something along those lines. You want to be able to own your home without any payments. So determine your goals, short-term, long-term, be specific, have a purpose, and have an exact plan for what you want to be able to do. And don't be afraid to be aggressive. Having lofty but realistic goals will definitely keep you motivated. So once you've established your goals, next thing you want to do when you're creating that budget is to go gather statements. I would say even from the last 3 months, you get hopefully a good average. You can get your statements, whether it's online banking or the paper statements that you get in the mail, or even just going through your checkbook register, because ultimately what you want to do is to be able to list out all of your expenses, your fixed bills, average out how much you spend on flexible expenses, things like groceries and gas and entertainment, eating out, clothing, medical stuff. You want to be able to try to come up with a good average to say, this is what we spent the last 3 months, this is where we're at, we're coming up this much short, or we're this far ahead every month. But you want to have a good, accurate reading of where you have been spending money. So use the average on all the flexible expenses, things that don't have a monthly bill necessarily. List all your fixed expenses, and also list all your annual expenses. Things like homeowner's insurance or car insurance. Sometimes those things are paid every 6 months or every quarter or every year. List all those out, because ideally what you want to be able to do is to be able to set aside that money throughout the year, so that when the time comes that bill is due, you have the money saved up. It's not a surprise. It doesn't. You don't have to depend on a tax refund to pay for that expense, and then come up short on your tax refund, and there's no surprises there. So if you can list out those annual expenses or those semi-annual, quarterly type expenses, and really just average them out over 12 months, be able to list those so we can start setting aside that money on a monthly basis and save them throughout the year. And then from there, once you've listed what you've spent in the last, again, on the average over the last 3 months, or if you want to do 6 months or even a year, however you want to do it, once you list out all the expenditures that you've had, then it's time to make adjustments. So identify problem areas. Are you overspending in any areas? Which I could probably say that most people, a very good majority of people, overspend somewhere, whether that's even in groceries. You don't realize how much you're spending at the grocery store every month. Those little trips to the grocery store in between big trips, definitely add up. So maybe it's groceries, maybe it's eating out, or maybe it's just entertainment in general. Whatever those, or maybe vacations, those kinds of things. I can bet that you would find an expense when you're going through your last 3 months' expenses, that you would find something where you'd say, we definitely don't need to spend as much money in this area. So identify those problem areas, and then just start reducing everywhere possible. If there's things you can cut out, if there's, try to identify what's a want and what's a need. Having $500 a month for entertainment is probably more of a want than a need. I would say you need to have something in there, for that extra spending money. But if you're struggling financially, there's bound to be places that you can cut out because they are wants instead of needs. Even things as simple as like a cable bill or your internet bill. Having cable or satellite TV or having the internet. In some cases there is a need there depending on job situations, that kind of thing. But in a lot of cases, even cable and internet can be classified as wants. I know my wife and I have been living without cable or internet for at least a few years now, 2 or 3 years now, and you survive without it. We were both used to having those luxuries from our, before we had gotten married. We were used to those luxuries, but identifying those as wants instead of needs, you can survive without even the things that you feel like you couldn't survive without. So really try to reduce everywhere possible in order to, even if it's a temporary reduction, just to help you achieve your goals financially. And then solidify those flexible expenses, like we talked about, like the groceries and the entertainment, eating out, those kind of things. And in order to do that, solidifying your flexible expenses, to me, is probably the single most important thing when it comes to budgeting. Because many of your bills, if you have a mortgage payment or a rent payment or a car payment or car insurance, those kind of things, your cell phone, those bills are going to be the same or very, very close to the same every month. And there's no way around it. You're never going to overspend in those areas because you get a monthly bill and you pay it. It's the same thing every month, and that's just the way it is. So the things that can mess up a budget, and if you have a budget on a piece of paper that doesn't translate into real life, a real living budget, those flexible expenses are things that can dominate that monthly budget and force you to come up short every month. So solidifying the flexible expenses, again, groceries, gas, entertainment, eating out, vacations, activities, personal care, getting haircuts or going to the salon, or whatever, that extra spending, anything that isn't really like a monthly bill, we can lump into the list of flexible expenses. So there's a couple different ways that you can solidify your flexible expenses. One would be the cash method, or the envelope system, as we would call it, which is kind of if you've heard of Dave Ramsey, that's the method that he would use. Basically, you would have an envelope for each flexible expense. So let's say you were, in your budget, you said you needed $300 a month for groceries, and you get paid twice a month. Every time you get paid, you take $150 in cash out of the bank and stick it in an envelope marked groceries, and that's where you have to purchase all your groceries out of for the next 2 weeks. And it's just kind of a running envelope system. And you maybe have 3 envelopes, you maybe have 10 envelopes, for however you want to split that up. But if you can use that cash, once you run out of cash, you're just going to have to survive on the groceries that you have until you get paid again, or borrow from another category, or whatever is going to work for you. So that's one way to do it. The amounts in that system can carry over every month. So if you're putting aside $100 for eating out every month, and you only spend $40 that month, but now you have $60 extra, continue to put $100 in there every month, and maybe that envelope gets a little bit thicker if you don't spend, and you can almost save up for if there's a big trip or something coming up where you're going to need that extra money for eating out, or it can be just a running account, almost like your checking account would be. So put the same amount in every month, and that's what you have to spend, no more than that. You can spend less, but no more. And then there's the electronic method, which is the method that my wife and I use. It's very similar to the envelope method, except instead of envelopes, we use a number of different checking accounts. So at our bank we have probably 5 or 6 different checking accounts, and each one has a specific purpose. One pays the bills, one's for groceries and gas, one's for spending money, and we just split it up into a bunch of different checking accounts, and I have just a stack of debit cards, each marked for their different purpose in my wallet. So, and that's easier for us because we can just, when we get paid, instead of going to the bank and getting cash out and hauling around all this cash, we just transfer the money into each separate account. So, again, if you have $300 a month for groceries, every time you get paid, just transfer $150 in there. So you get paid twice a month, and just make that transfer, and then you have a running total for how much you have available to use for groceries and how much you have to use for gas and all those kinds of things. So just using multiple checking accounts works about the same way the envelope system is. The only thing with that is you want to make sure you're keeping good track of how much you're spending, whether you use the online banking system or keeping a check register for each of those accounts, but just having a good idea of how much is in each of those accounts at all times. You'll be able to really solidify those flexible expenses. And now just a couple of suggestions. This is from Crown Financial, their suggested percentages for flexible expenses. And when I was figuring out numbers, I just based this on a $4,000 a month take-home income. So altogether, between husband and wife, or for a family, whatever, just for this purpose, I based it on a $4,000 a month take-home income. So for food, if you're wondering how to determine how much to spend on food, Crown Financial suggests 12% of your take-home income. In this case, it would be $480. For miscellaneous household supplies, 5%, so $200 a month, and that would cover toiletries, again, haircuts or makeup or gifts, and then also I would include cable and internet in there. So if your cable and internet comes out to $100 already, that leaves you with $100 for other household, toiletries, haircuts, that kind of stuff. Entertainment and recreation, 6%, another, $240. That's plenty for anybody, even if your income was $2,000 a month. To have $120 for entertainment, living on that income is pretty good. Transportation, 12% again, kind of like food, $480. Ideally, this would cover any car payments, gas, car insurance, all the transportation expenses, bus passes, all that kind of stuff. And then housing and utilities, they say 36%, which again in this case would come out to $1,440. This would cover rent or mortgage, electricity, water, all that kind of stuff, homeowners insurance, renters insurance. So 36% of your take-home income. That would leave you 29% left over for saving, giving, child care, paying other debts, credit cards or loans or anything, life insurance, that kind of stuff, medical expenses, which would leave you over $1,000 for those kinds of things. So just to give you an idea, not everybody's budget is going to work out the same. But if you're wondering what a normal expense would be in certain areas, those are some good guidelines. And we have a budgeting guide on our website as well that you can download, and that's from Crown Financial, and that's where these numbers came from. So if you go to our website, which is familylifecredit.org, you should be able to find a budgeting guide that you can download. It's probably about 10 or 15 pages long. So then last part here would just be about saving. Here's another good couple verses out of Proverbs where it says, "Go to the ant, you sluggard, consider its ways and be wise. It has no commander, no overseer or ruler, yet it stores its provisions in summer and gathers its food at harvest." So just the wisdom behind saving and being prepared for having the discipline to be prepared for emergencies and just being smart financially, being proactive financially. So here's what I would recommend as far as saving. And again, I would split things up even more. If you have one checking account and no savings accounts or anything, that can sure get complicated when you have bills coming out at random times of the month, and everything is kind of on a day-by-day basis. So I like to split things off as much as possible and have a purpose for every dollar that comes in. So, so here's an idea to have 3 savings accounts. One you would have for your short-term goals, and that would include, again, small purchases or trips, those kinds of things. Another one for long-term goals. Again, maybe you're trying to save for your kids' college or for retirement. And then a third, maybe your most important account out of all the bank accounts would be your emergency fund, and that would you'd build that up to help pay for car or home repairs or unexpected expenses, things that come up along the way that you weren't expecting that need to be paid. And so if you can come up with a number that you're transferring into each of these accounts every month, just based on whatever you can afford, even if it's $25 a month into each account, do whatever you can, but come up with a set number when you're going through your budget that you can afford to put in savings every month, and then just split it however you need to between these 3 accounts. Ideally, in your emergency fund, you would have at least $1,000 in there at all times. So the faster you can save up $1,000, the better, and then it makes it a little bit easier to be aggressive with the short and long-term savings accounts as well. Then a couple other just random things in regards to budgeting. First of all, with variable income, if your income goes up and down, whether it's commission or seasonal work, a couple things you want to try to do is estimate your total annual income. Maybe go off of the last couple of years or what you think it might be for the year, and divide that number by 12. And then when you do get paid, whatever you get paid, maybe set up another savings account where you just deposit all of your pay in that savings account, and then basically give yourself a paycheck based on that that number that when you divided your total income by 12, that's your monthly income, and pay yourself that paycheck and split that off into all those other accounts or cash categories every month. And that way, hopefully you'll have the extra money in that savings account. So if you're coming up short one month, you already have money built up in that savings account where you're depositing all your income, where if you have a tough month for sales or whatever, your previous months have already gotten you prepared for the tough months. And then just a few other additional tips here to wrap up in the last few minutes here. If you get bonuses, tax refunds, extra cash coming in from anywhere, try to save those. Again, first thing I would do is get $1,000 in your emergency fund, and then just stash that away in some kind of savings account, and have a purpose for that. Don't just put it in your checking account to spend on whatever. It'll disappear faster than you would have dreamed. So have a purpose for that. Save it first. Give yourself some time to decide what to do with that money. And if nothing else, just stick it in your emergency fund so you have it for things that are going to come up. Make adjustments on the fly. If you put $300 a month in for groceries and you're constantly finding it next to impossible to stay under that amount, make adjustments. Increase that amount and decrease other expenses. Maybe you need to take some money out of your entertainment funds that you can have what you need for groceries. Make adjustments month by month. I would have a family meeting in the beginning. If you're married or have kids, include the whole family at the beginning here as you're getting started, so that everybody's on the same page, so kids understand what your attitude is towards your finances right now and what your goals are, so that they can, be of help and just understand the situation when you're spending money. And then if you're married, I would even have a monthly meeting between the spouse. So again, both of you are on the same page. Both of you know, how you did the previous month and can kind of refresh yourself on the plan moving forward for the next month. I would stop using credit. Find a way to stop using credit cards. Even if you're using them to get the miles on your, air miles or whatever on credit cards, that can be pretty risky. It can lead to some of your irresponsible spending. And so stop using credit. Try to get to the point where you stop using credit and it's just on a cash or just your checking account basis as far as spending goes. And then become debt-free as soon as possible. Make that a priority to pay off your debt as fast as possible. The faster you can pay off debt, the more you can start saving, or the more you can change your lifestyle to what you want it to be. And then one other tip would be to keep your emergency fund at a separate bank. Make it difficult to access so that it's really just in an emergency situation that you would access that money. If it's at the same bank you have all your other accounts at, it can be easy to transfer money and easy to get at when it may not be a real emergency. So keep it at a separate bank across town so you have to make an extra trip to get at it. And then consider taking on extra work if you haven't already. Take on second and third jobs, even if it's temporary, just for aggressive debt repayment if that's part of your plan. A 6-month sacrifice doing a second job or something along those lines can go a long ways in speeding up the process of paying off debt and becoming reaching the financial goals you set out for yourself. If you have any questions at any time, there's my email and my phone number for you. I'd be more than happy to help you through if you want help setting up the budget or help with anything at all financially. Please feel free to shoot me an email or give me a call at any time. And other than that, that will wrap it up for today's webinar here, the August webinar, Family Life Credit Services. I hope you all have a good day. Thank you so much for attending today, and call us if you ever have any questions. God bless you all.